Hello there, and welcome to this week's edition of Craig's Critique. The cinematic film that I'm going to be reviewing this week is the new film from Aardman Animation, Shaun the Sheep. That is correct, Shaun the Sheep. For those not aware outside the UK, Shaun the Sheep was a character in one of the Wallace and Gromit shorts, and therefore he then got a spin-off of his own animated kids show. And this is just effectively a feature-length version of his adventures. Shaun the Sheep lives on a farm, of course, with other sheep and a farmer. Farmer somehow manages to get lost in the city, so away from the farm, of course. And it's then up to Shaun and his fellow sheep and his faithful sheepdog to go and rescue the farmer. It sounds delightful, doesn't it? And it purely is. It's such a delightful film. It's very hard to criticise this film because of the market it's going for. Although it's not to say adults can't enjoy the film, but without a doubt, most of the stuff is for kids. But I can tell you right now, from an adult's point of view, there's just enough to keep you amused. Just thinking about those moments right this very moment. So what should I go into? Well, we'll talk about Aardman first of all, in a brief sort of spell, because they are such a successful British animation company. From their humble beginnings, of course, to do with Wallace and Gromit, Creature Comforts, things like that. They had their first feature film in Chicken Run, which was great. The Wallace and Gromit film, Curse of the Were-Rabbit, which I think is brilliant. And very recently they've had can I get the name of this right? Is it Pirates in an Adventure with Scientists? Or is it... I think that's correct. It's a very mixy up title for a film, but I think that was correct. It has its audience. I wasn't the biggest fan of it, but I can see exactly where it was going for, and so therefore it was okay. But straight back to Shaun the Sheep here. And because it's a film that is completely dialogue free, most of the humour is extremely subtle but so effective. Everything from just the way that they make Shaun speak, well not speak, but grunt and bar and things like that, and the other sheep, yes, and it's the facial expressions. It's all about facial expressions, which is what Aardman have been so good at previously, obviously with Gromit in the Wallace and Gromit shorts and film. So they've got this sort of art down to a T, and it's effectively a silent film. It almost harks back to sort of like the early, like the 20s to 40s sort of silent films. And it's a very refreshing look at doing a film, and particularly for a kids' film as well, because it's even better for kids, I think, as well, because it's not being completely out there, and it's leading you in the right ways. Sorry, leading you in the wrong ways in terms of the way you film the film. It's been very subtle what it's doing, but the kids are still getting it. There's many funny scenes and many funny exchanges in this film. One in particular features when Shaun and his sheepdog get caught by an animal catcher and get put in an animal shelter. But obviously to them it's jail, not really a shelter. And the guy who catches him is very, very funny. Yes, and there's some really funny moments in this animal shelter. I could tell you that. Featuring a rather intense looking inmate. Yeah, a rather intense looking inmate. So it's very funny there. The farmer himself has a great sort of line, because the reason why he is lost effectively, or is perceived to be lost in this city, is because he has lost his memory. He's been in an accident, so he's going to hospital. He doesn't know who he is, and he's slowly but surely trying to remember who he is. And because he's obviously in a farm and he shears sheep, he passes like a barber's, and suddenly something clicks. So he thinks, oh, maybe something there. Something's like he sees like the clippers in the barbers. And yeah, and he proceeds to create a new fashion craze with his sheep shearing abilities, which is very funny. Yeah, there's some really, really, other than the humour, that this is brilliantly done. I really do hate it when these sort of films really go for your heartstrings and go for the emotion in such a strong way. But in the one particular, it's only done in one moment, so I'm quite happy with that. It's not a lingering thing. It's in one moment, and it's done in such a powerful way. You cannot but help but be touched and be moved by this moment. I won't say what it is because it kind of ruins the moment. But my word, is it effective? And it shouldn't. A kid's film should not affect you in this way at all. It shouldn't have affected me in this way, I can tell you that. I'm laughing about it because I don't want to cry about it, but I'm thinking about it again. And just on a side note, there's an extreme, after this sort of sad moment, there's a really unexpected moment of an unexpected usage of a Foo Fighters song. And it'll be none of the Foo Fighters songs you think of. But my word, it's so effective after this really emotional moment, and you just feel for the sheep, and I can't believe I just said that sentence at all. You feel for the sheep, and the sheepdog. But oh my word, it is really effective in that sense. So yeah, I don't really know what else to say about this film other than it's some great moments of humour, a brilliant moment of emotion, and just touching your heart and pulling your heartstrings. And I think the ultimate compliment I can give to this film is just a charming film. It's a charming film, and it's what we Brits do best. Not to gloat, but there we go. For me claiming for the whole of British cinema here. Yeah, there we go. But yeah, Shaun the Sheep, a charming, funny, emotional film. So yeah, there we go. So, how can I link the next film, which will be my next review, which is my classic review. Now, to say this is a classic review, many people may take issue with, but I'm going to just go off some of its reputation and its star power and its moments. So we'll debate this, whether it is obviously a classic film or not. So I'm going to try and do a really clever linkage here. I'm going to mess it up so badly. So from a sheep who spends a lot of time in a field, to a man who has a field of dreams. There we go. Look at that nice little segue going on there. Yes, I'm pretty proud of that. I'll never get over that. I'm not going to start grinning about that at all. But yeah, Field of Dreams is the film, and we all know obviously Kevin Costner, pretty much at the peak of his powers. This is late 80s, early 90s, Kevin Costner was a huge star. And he was one of the most liked and likeable actors about the business. Now, Field of Dreams is quite a bizarre film to try and describe to somebody. It's effectively a fantasy drama. Kevin Costner is a Midwestern farmer, I believe. I'm sorry if I got the area wrong. He's originally from New York, but he's moved out there and he's married his wife who lives in the middle. I can't remember the state. Apologies. They bought a farm together, so he's kind of an amateur, but he's doing a good job. But one late evening, he hears a voice saying, "Now I hope I get this right, because it's often misquoted. Obviously, is build it and he will come." He's like, "Oh, what's that? What's that mean?" At all. And he has like a vision of a baseball field where his crops are. Now, that sounds a really silly premise. He then proceeds to follow these voices, and in a sense, follow his dreams. He's almost having a midlife crisis at this sort of point, so he feels like by doing this, he's stopping this midlife crisis and fulfilling something. So, like I say, it's really hard to sort of explain and describe without it sounding really corny. Without, oh my god, I just did a corny joke about a guy who's knocking on his crops. Oh dear. But yeah, so he fulfills this, and I don't want to go say what happens in case anybody hasn't seen this film. But what then proceeds is a bizarre set of events, effectively, that sort of then sends him on the road to meet this writer, played by James Jones, who was a writer from the 60s, sort of a part of the hippie movement, but was inspired by the hippie movement or was entwined with it or something like that. James Earl Jones in this film is wonderfully funny. He's wonderfully funny. Actually, it's probably his best performance. Probably, I think it might be one of his best performances actually by James Earl Jones. And their chemistry they have, Kevin Costner and some great. Burt Lancaster was some great moments in this film also. I won't want to say what his role is exactly because it might spoil it a little bit. But yeah, how could all I'll say about this film is its quirkiness, is its effectiveness. And usually quirkiness sometimes can take away from the film, but because it's just about dealt with in the right frame of mind, not to be too sentimental or too corny. I'm being too too corny. Oh dear me. Or too It hits the right note. It just about hits the right note. It's not without a doubt an amazing film because of that quirkiness. It's holding it back a little bit in a way. But what makes the film? I'm contradicting myself there straight away, aren't I? But it's really hard to describe this film. I really apologise. I should have done a lot more research with this one. Too much on Shaun the Sheep there. But yeah, I really enjoyed Field of Dreams. It's the second time I've seen it this week. The first time I watched it, I thought it was alright. It's one of those films I needed to see again to get my head around it, because I hadn't seen it for like probably 10 years or so, something like that. So I will be buying it on DVD. Because it's an interesting film to watch and there's great performances in it. Okay, Costner's good. Costner has a lot of detractors, and they are justified in certain means and certain films. But in this film, he has got the right sort of tone and right point. He's got his character right. Amy Madigan is great as his wife. And like I said, James Earl Jones is just a ton of fun. So, although I probably won't say it's a classic film, it's a film of classic moments. And I've said that previously on other ones. But yeah, it's definitely worth a look. It's probably more in America maybe turned as a classic film because of the baseball aspect of the whole film. I won't describe more than that, but yeah. Probably more in America it's more of a classic film. Rest of the world, because of that angle, it's maybe not quite as effective. But I still really enjoyed it and I think it's a great film. So yeah, I'd watch Field of Dreams. And by all means, please watch Shaun the Sheep as well. 2 films that feature fields. What more can you want from films these days? I mean, that is what films are lacking these days, is fields, isn't it? But yeah, I'm going to stop talking now because I've done that joke way too many times now. So thank you again for watching if you have. Shaun the Sheep was a cinematic release film, great film, and Field of Dreams was the classic film, if you deem it so, to view. Great film. Please watch them, and I thank you again for watching, and goodbye.